I've got tips, some simple, some not so simple, on how to get razor sharp images. This video is brought to you by UniConvert. You can convert, download, compress, edit, and do so much more with their toolbox. Check them out at the link below this video. The first tip is really simple. If you've got a UV filter on the end of your lens, just get rid of it. It doesn't add any sharpness to your images. I hate them. Lens hoods are much better in my opinion. They offer protection and they block lens flare, which can soften your image. For this tip, I want you to think about the lenses you're shooting with. You see, if you're shooting with very convenient lenses that offer a lot of range, well, generally that comes at a sacrifice of sharpness. If ultimate sharpness is your goal, consider trying a prime lens. Even very affordable ones like the Nifty 50 can offer exceptional sharpness. If you're a DSLR photographer and your camera allows for microfocus adjustments, you might want to make sure that your lenses are aligned properly with your focal plane and sensor. I've got a detailed video that tells you everything you need to know. It's linked right down below this one. Focus points, people. Pick one, put it on your subject, and use it. You see, there's this common misconception I hear often. I let the camera use all of the focus points. That means everything in my picture's gonna be in focus. No, it doesn't work that way. In simple terms, pick one focus point, put it on your subject. That's gonna give you the sharpest results. Now, we've got a couple of simple tips out of the way. We're gonna head outside and get some shooting done. Good boy, good boy. Go, run, run, run. Go get it, go get it. The first tip I have for you out here is really simple. How to hold your camera properly to make a nice stable platform for shooting. It's not this, or this, or this, but this. Elbow, elbow to forehead to create a nice stable platform. Next tip I have for you out here, use a tripod whenever possible. So a tripod offers an incredibly stable platform for shooting, far better than you can ever handhold, but it is critically important that you set your tripod up correctly. This composition, we've ended up on a hill. Glad my camera wasn't on that. To avoid it falling downhill, make sure you've got a leg on the downhill slope. Make sure all the legs are tight though. Once you've created a nice stable platform with your tripod, then put your camera on it and lock it down nice and tight. And then turn off image stabilization, either in the lens or the body. Some camera systems are confused by the stability of a tripod and actually will blur your images if you leave it on. And when you're on a tripod shooting at slower shutter speeds, you should use mirror lockup. Now, you mirrorless photographers, you don't need to worry about that, but DSLR shooters, you want to avoid that mirror slap. You can also just shoot in live view. You should use a 2-second timer or a remote to trigger your camera. And bonus tip for you, when I'm set up on a tripod shooting at longer shutter speeds, I don't even move when I'm firing the shutter. Archer, don't move. All right, let's head back inside. I got a bunch more tips for you. Let's go.
Are you looking for a super simple video converter and editor? UniConverter is awesome. Stay tuned for a tour.
General rule of thumb for getting sharp handheld shots is your shutter speed should be twice your focal length. If you happen to be shooting with a crop sensor camera, I've got the Sony a6400 here, which has a crop factor of 1.6. Well, you need to put that into the equation as well. So let's say I'm shooting at 38 millimeters on this 18-135 lens. I need to do 1.6 times 38 times 2. It's 125th of a second. So my shutter speed needs to be at least 125th of a second to get reliably sharp handheld shots. Now these days, many of our cameras have image stabilization built in, either in the lens or the camera, or sometimes both together. But anytime it's critical that I get a sharp shot, I follow that focal length shutter speed rule. If you do have to cheat the rule, make sure image stabilization is on and put your camera into a burst mode. Shoot a burst of images, 10, 15. You'll have a bunch that aren't sharp from your motion. But if you get lucky, A couple out of that burst will be acceptably sharp and allow you to cheat that rule. Now, all of that doesn't take into account your subject. That assumes a static subject. But if your subject is moving, then you need to pick a shutter speed that's appropriate to freeze your subject, if that's your goal. And look, I've got a short little guide about different subjects and the speeds they might be moving and the appropriate shutter speeds for them right down below. But if you want a complete guide packed full of information about appropriate shutter speeds and all of the other settings for your camera, well, you can join Pen. We've got a free 10-day trial, and joining gets you a bunch of gifts, including this guide I just mentioned. You can learn more at photorec.tv/pen. Link is right down below this video. Aperture. That can be a whole detailed video in itself, but for the purposes of this video, I want to keep it very simple and dispel a common myth that the higher values, f16, f18, f29, f1000, gives you a greater depth of field and therefore everything's more sharp. No. Diffraction sets in at those very high values and actually softens your images. Most images have a sweet spot that's the middle of the range, f5, 6 to f8-ish. That's going to actually give you the sharpest results. And another thing that happens when you go to those really high apertures, you're cutting a lot of light. And when you cut a lot of light, you got to boost ISO. And that leads me to my next tip, ISO. The more you raise your ISO, the more noise you introduce into your pictures, and noise hides sharpness. It's messy. So you want to avoid the higher ISOs. But I really hesitate to just lay that tip out there like that because I will always raise my ISO versus lowering my shutter speed. Noisy images can be corrected in post-processing. Blurry images cannot be fixed. Look, I just laid out a lot of tips for you. And it should be clear when we're talking about shutter speed, aperture, and ISO that they determine a correct exposure. But what might not be clear is that they impact the story you're trying to tell. And that's why we're out there, to creatively tell stories. The last little bit of advice that I want to leave you with is from my good friend Steve Skurch. It's about being humble. As you're learning these settings and as you're trying to tell these stories, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have images that you're not happy with, but take the time to review them, to learn from them, and you will grow as a photographer. And if you feel kind of limited by your gear, be creative in working around those limitations, because truthfully, all of the gear that's out there is able to make impactful images. If you appreciated this video, give it a quick thumbs up and think about subscribing for more gear reviews, tips, tricks, and how-to videos. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.
Let's talk about UniConverter from Wondershare. One of the most frequent questions we get here at photorec.tv is, I need a simple video editor. Or I'm trying to share a video clip with my friends or family and it's just too big to share online, or my computer doesn't read the format. UniConverter from Wondershare takes care of all of that and so much more. Check it out. I'm in the convert mode. I'm just going to drag in a bunch of clips from flying around the drone this weekend. Once they're all loaded up, you can see that you can convert them in a batch process to a variety of formats. You've got the wrappers, you've got sizes, and of course you have audio extraction, special for each device, and files that are a little bit more friendly for editing. That brings me to my next point. So this is great. You can batch process all of these clips, but even more importantly, you can edit. You've got your brightness, contrast, saturation controls for each video, and you've got their quick little filters, and you'll see a preview and an output down below. You can even add watermarks there. You can crop, and most importantly, and what is really nice about this program, is that you can trim. Usually I have a couple of seconds, sometimes even a minute or two at the beginning of some drone footage that I want to trim out, and at the end as well. You really want to impress people with your footage, with your pictures, narrow it down to just your very best work. So let's say that right around there is where I like to actually start this clip. I can stop the playhead, hit cut, click that selection, and delete. I can even easily drag to shorten this clip. I click save. I've shortened that clip. I can continue that process with the rest of these clips, editing, shortening, deleting, even removing pieces in the middle of the clip as possible. And here's what I love. merge all videos. So you're taking these individual clips and you can actually edit and output in a nice shareable format as one single video with the merge all videos. That's awesome. And then in the toolbox, you have the ability to very easily compress video. Choose the output size you want. The program takes care of the rest. Hit compress and be happy. One other tool that's in this toolbox that I really like, it's the GIF maker. Add a video, pick the start time of that video, duration, hit create GIF, and share with friends and family. UniConverter, a full-featured Mac or PC program that you can try for free. Link is right down below. We thank them for their support.